Hey guys, and welcome to the show. I have a special treat for you today. We have a guest that's been gone for a while, but she is absolutely one of our favorites. Yes, I am, of course, talking about Jessica Payne, and she is coming on the show today to make our lives more secure. Hey guys, and like I said, I had a special treat. Well, here she is. Jessica, how are you?
I'm good. Thanks for having me back.
Oh man, listen, you are awesome and you've always done a great job on this show. So it's more a matter of, you wanting to come do the show than it is me having you back. You can come anytime.
Oh, thank you. I'm super happy to be here and glad to be talking to the premier audience again.
Woohoo. Yeah. All right, so you've got some cool security stuff, threat analytics.
Yes. So one of the things that has changed since the last time I was on your show is I've actually gone and joined the Windows Defender team, and I actually work on the threat intelligence team. So I work in Windows Defender threat intelligence, and that's a super cool thing because it really helps drive so much of our strategy and so much of how we're protecting customers now. And it's not just by providing an antivirus solution, it's not just providing Windows Defender ATP. We are really trying to drive the needle forward in customer networks by applying all of those fantastic mitigation technologies that we've talked about before, things like SLAM and things like that, to the advice we give related to threats. And one of the ways that we do that is through a new feature in Windows Defender ATP called Threat Analytics. And Threat Analytics is a portal that ties right into ATP, and it's going to give you write-ups of stuff that's happening in the threat landscape, really important items, whether those be 0 days or new malware campaigns. But the most important part is it's going to tell you whether or not it applies to your environment, whether or not you would be vulnerable to it, or whether it's actually been utilized in your environment. Because if you're a security operations center or an IT department, you are getting peppered all day long with, I need to fix this, I need to fix that, this is red, this is red, this is red. And instead of saying, you have to fix absolutely everything, we try to make it clear that, look, here's a campaign, here's how it could get into your environment, here's how you might be susceptible to it, or perhaps more importantly, here's how it's actually been used in your environment, which I think is a fantastic feature.
Yeah, that's pretty cool. Wow.
Do you want to see it?
Yeah, absolutely.
So the cool thing about threat analytics is it's going to be right in your security center inside of your Defender portal. And I will display that. So this is your typical Windows Defender Security Center portal. This is exactly where you would be able to see everything that you need to see in your environment as far as detections and your Windows Defender operations. But what if you want to go into the left-hand pane here and you want to go under dashboards, there's something here you may not have noticed, and that's the threat analytics. And I believe we're in public preview right now, so you might have to opt into this, but we'll include a link into how to do that. But if you go to the threat analytics dashboard, what you're going to see here is you're going to see stuff that my team directly contributes to the product for you. These are going to be write-ups of ongoing threat intelligence campaigns. These are going to be write-ups of threats that are perhaps news making or going to be pertinent to the environment. This is going to be stuff that you have probably heard about. So here we have the threat analytics dashboard, and these are going to be those threat intelligence write-ups I talked about. These are going to be showing you whether or not something's actually implying to your environment, because here we have latest threats, and these are going to be the things that are most currently written about, things that my team's written a report about. Or over here, we have probably the way that most people are going to sort this in their environment. We have the high impact threats. Now, this is a test tenant, so it's probably a little bit more scary than a real client might be. But here we can see that this environment definitely has 5 instances of the ersnif banking Trojan. It's been at least one or more of these other articles are applying to it, and that out of the 37 articles we have, 10 of them are applying to it. But here's the actually like even cooler part of this. You see the green part? Everybody in an IT organization loves green things that say that you've done it well. These are things that you've resolved the alerts on, or that you've resolved the need for mitigations on. So this can actually allow you to track your progress in dealing with these threats. So if I'm a security person and I'm working in a department, and let's say there's the CISO has a question about a 0 day or a CVE in the environment. Well, conveniently, There's an article right here. So this actually made the news. This is something that you can go and you can read about right now, this CVE. And here we've got a fantastic write-up of how this was used in the wild, written by a guy named Peter on my team. And it'll tell you how it was used, the particular campaign it was used in. It'll allow you to see the commands that were there. And then here's the part that I think makes us different than every other threat intelligence write-up that you're going to see on these things. It says mitigations here. Not all of the mitigations that we show in this portal are going to be things that are simply like update your virus definitions or something like that. Our mitigations that we apply here are what we like to call actionable threat intelligence. This is going to be how to just kill an attack class. In some of the threats we write about, we talk about how enabling just one simple GPO could actually block the entire delivery mechanism for the threat, how we can actually make sure that this isn't going to apply to us going forward. So I think that's a big difference, and that's really something that people are looking for. And in addition to that, we actually also, for all of our threat analytics articles, we provide you with what's called an advanced hunting query. So if you are using Windows Defender ATP and you've never used the advanced hunting feature, you're missing out, because the advanced hunting feature allows you to use the Custo query language that is actually what we use here to do hunting, to actually search your environment. It's incredibly powerful, and we like to provide for every one of the threat analytics articles we write a way that you can actually use advanced hunting to see if it applies to your network.
So you mentioned applying a GPO to prevent some of these.
Yeah, so this kind of idea of, instead of just writing a threat intelligence report and talking about how a certain product can stop it, we understand that not every organization is going to have full coverage of a product. Or more importantly, if you apply certain mitigations to your environment, you can actually prevent attack classes from being used against you. There's this great thing called the MITRE attack matrix, which actually allows you to see different techniques that attackers use and how they might be detected in your environment or how they might be mitigated in your environment. We've really kind of like taken that approach to heart here, because if we talk about a delivery vector, if we wanted to talk about something like a banking Trojan, so right here we can see ersniff, which is a banking Trojan. If I were writing about that in a normal malware write-up sort of summary, what you would see is you would see a whole lot of this information at the top here. You would see how it was delivered. You would see a write-up about the pieces of the malware and like what code they've been using. But we kind of go beyond that, because it's not just that we're telling you how we might detect it. We absolutely cover that here. We absolutely tell you the different detections that we have here. But you'll see here that under mitigations, we have a couple different things here that are not necessarily related specifically to running Windows Defender. If you don't have full coverage with Windows Defender ATP in your environment, or you are afraid of these type of things being used, or let's face it, attackers are really determined to get past antivirus solutions, so they can change their code very quickly, and they're very determined to find antivirus bypasses. If you want to keep your environment safer, allow macros only from trusted locations. This is in the security baselines for Office and Office 365. We talk about turning on attack surface reduction rules. We talk about things that are going to be more holistic to Windows and more holistic to environments, and not just product specific, to kind of stop these attacks, because this is what we call that actionable threat intelligence. We actually were working really hard to understand a threat to its fullest and make sure that we provide you information that goes beyond just use our product to solve the problem.
That's pretty neat. I like
Yeah.
it.
It's cool. I mean, there's a ton of different information in here when we write up these threats, where we're talking about enabling the Windows firewall, we're talking about randomizing your local administrator passwords, we're talking about credential hygiene. Stop me if you've heard me speak about any of these things before, because we want to
Yeah,
make sure that as you improve your security stance and as you try to get rid of the red and make it green in these environments, that you're applying things that will work for multiple threats. And the interesting thing about using the threat analytics dashboard is you're going to be able to see that the advice kind of does overlap on a certain number of these things. Because if you're worried about, certain APT groups or determined human adversaries or those targeted attackers, you may also want to be worried about a banking Trojan, because the way that these things get into your environments, macros are the same sort of distribution vector for both of those classes of attacker. We've got a write up in here right now about how LNK files were used by a group we track as Itrium, in order to get code executed in environments. We've also got a write up in here about how LNK files were used to distribute another banking Trojan. So if you're thinking about how can I tell whether or not I'm going to be susceptible susceptible to an attack, this is going to tell you, because if you've got a mitigation that's not showing up, or if you've got a banking Trojan that's distributed by LNK files in your environment, that's an indicator right there that you have something that you can harden really quickly that'll help you against both those targeted attackers like the Yttrium case, and against more generic malware, which is also affecting your environment. I think it's great. I would have loved this when I was an IT person.
Oh yeah, yeah. And you're still an IT person. Come
Yeah, I know. One day I'll go back and actually do work again. It's
on.
fine. But
So
I
I
think
like this, and I like the Windows Defender antivirus section where it's got the viruses spread out as like different links. What happens if you click on a specific virus?
if you click on a specific virus, what this is going to do is it's going to take you to another great thing that I think is wonderful that we provide as Windows Defender. It's going to send you to the malware encyclopedia. So
That's pretty neat.
yeah, our malware encyclopedia, if you ever get like a virus name or you want to know about it, plug it into your search engine, plug it into Bing or whatever search engine you use, and you'll be able to get information about how the threat works, what a recent sample was doing, how it actually gets itself installed in the environment, and then you're going to see like the traffic or the command and control that it uses. So this is fantastic, because if you're looking for uh, more information on threats, we link directly so you can get kind of a deeper dive into the specific malware.
Wow, that's really cool.
Yeah, it is.
I really like that.
I'm pretty fond of it. So
And by the way, there are no other search engines.
whatever.
Yeah.
Now that's very America centric viewpoint, Lex. We do have customers in countries where Bing is not available. So
I guess. I feel sorry for them.
okay. But I do think that this kind of approach that we're taking, I think it's going to be something that's really impactful for customers, and it'll allow them to track themselves against things like the MITRE ATT&CK matrix. And, having come from an incident response background, a lot of what we see is sort of rinse and repeat attacker behavior, where they rely on the fact that it's difficult to know where to start with hardening your network. They rely on the fact that people don't know that you can manage Microsoft Office macros versus just outright disable them. Because if you disable macros outright, great if you can, but a lot of times you'll have something like a critical accounting component, or you'll have some sort of finance application or workflow that's needed that just breaks, and then therefore you can't do that holistically in your environment. But what we do is we apply the sort of logic of, hey, you can one, figure out who needs your macros, and then you can use something like a group policy that's targeted to just a certain subset of the users. People who aren't in accounting don't get macros. Or you can use the actual features that came in later versions of Microsoft Office that allow you to open macros from a trusted location. So what we're doing is we're making everybody aware that if you get an alert that says, I have Emotet, I have TrickBot, I have ersniff, here are the options to make sure that that doesn't happen to you again. Here are the options to make it so the user is not the security boundary, because I think that that's a really important thing that we need to stop doing, is like we need to stop blaming users. A lot of times when I see people that are getting the banking Trojans that are coming in as like fake purchase orders or fake DHL notifications, if you look at everything else that they're opening all day, it's their job to open purchase orders. It's their job to open DHL
Right.
notifications, right? So how are they supposed to tell, right?
Yeah,
So
absolutely.
yeah, so it allows us to kind of show people how to prioritize and how to know what what's real, because a lot of other threat intelligence write-ups, a lot of other vendors spend a lot of time making the attackers seem like superheroes or vicious evil creatures, and they're not really doing a lot of things that can't be found or can't be stopped. Like we're trying to demystify attacks and make them understood and know, so that people know that they have kind of defenses they can put up as well.
Sure.
Cool.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I think that it kind of relates to our holistic approach, and another thing that we're doing recently that my team's helping out with, which is Microsoft Threat Experts. Have you heard about Microsoft Threat Experts?
No, but you and I talked before the show, and it sounded pretty interesting. So let's dive in.
Okay, cool. this is where everybody knows we baked the cake in advance. Shh.
Right. Yeah.
Um, so Microsoft.
Well, okay, so to be fair, just so there's no secrets here, we talked for about 2 or 3 minutes before we started the show. I don't want anybody to think anything funny's going on here.
No,
But
no,
remember, we're doing all of this for you guys anyway.
it's true. If we didn't sync, we would be poorly prepared. So
That's right.
yes. So Microsoft Threat Experts is actually something that we announced at RSA, which was a super fun place to be. And what we announced there is that we actually now have a managed hunting service. So if you are a Windows Defender ATP customer, you can enter the public preview for people that actually work in the same team as me to go and use your network and find things that are not currently firing alerts. This is not SOC as a service. This is not people who are triaging alerts for you. This is threat intelligence powered hunting that's going to be augmenting the product and uncovering previously undetected attacker behavior and giving you context on other alerts that fired. We've got a lot of really great case stories where we are partnering with this Microsoft Threat Experts team to find previously undiscovered targeted attacks, right? Where we will take threat intelligence and we will feed it to them, and they will discover for the customers that have opted into MTE things that wouldn't have been alerted before, or we'll give them context where in one particular instance, something that started out as an alert about malicious use of certutil actually turned out to be a human compromise with a whole bunch of exfiltration of data and, might have been staging a destructive attack. So what you're getting with Microsoft Threat Experts is above and beyond just somebody sort of looking at the alerts in your queue or anything like that. We're taking organizations that have world-class security operation centers. These are the people that we've been partnering with in the pilot. Hi, people we've been partnering with in the pilot, that are definitely like creme de la creme security teams. We're not trying to do staff augmentation. We're not trying to say, hey, we're going to, prioritize the alerts for you. This is giving you context to things that are happening on your network that may or may not be alerting, and providing you with data that is going to drive those world-class SOCs to a lot better understanding of what's happening. And it's that threat intelligence powered. So when you see a new attack show up, like when a security researcher like Jared Haidt or Casey Smith posts something on Twitter, the very first thing we do is we take it to MTE and we write what's called a trap, because we want to know, has anybody else been using this behavior? And this has yielded fruit in a lot of different cases, like specifically some 0 days. We've actually been able to find within 5 hours of a 0 day being disclosed on Twitter, we found attackers using it on networks. So this allows us a lot more flexibility, because this human powered, this intelligence powered hunting, it's going to be something where you don't have to worry about getting a lot of like false positives in your environment. This is actually where we're dealing with what might have been a false negative. We're dealing with really cutting edge intelligence to drive us to hunt in those networks and find those attackers.
That's pretty cool. So I just have to ask you though, my customer had a PADS, which we send a security team in, they pull uh, hard drives out, they scan them, they destroy all the hard drives at the end of the day, just so that there's nothing left behind, and they do all sorts of advanced, I would call it security hunting, but this sounds like it's different.
This is different. So I actually used to be on the team that delivers pads. Hi.
Yeah.
So this is actually me speaking from experience. Nice people in the audience. So what the pads is doing is it's going to be an on-prem scan with a proprietary engine. So this is actually a point-in-time snapshot, and it's really important because it's going to go a little bit deeper. It's going to give you some more holistic advice, and it's going to be a sort of a retroactive. It's sort of like, I call it an IR without knowing if you have an incident. Whereas what we're doing with MTE is it's sort of a moving forward type of experience. A lot of times we can find activity that's already existed on the network, but we're using the Windows Defender ATP data that comes to us. So it's really good if you were going to combine a pads with MTE, do the pads first, then come in with MTE, because that's going to give you that more historical record as well as that real-time hunting that we're doing.
Okay. Yeah, that sounds really cool.
Yeah,
So
and
if somebody wants to engage you guys, how do they go about engaging you?
awesome. So the MTE service is currently in public preview. So we'll put a link at the bottom here, I'm sure, where you guys can go and you can opt in to that. but if customers want to participate in MTE, they can just come into the public preview, and then later this year we'll be announcing how to get it to everybody. So.
Okay, awesome. Yeah, that sounds great.
Cool. And one of the neat things that we do is we do what's called a targeted attack notification. And this is actually a really in-depth write-up of what we find with MTE, and it kind of ties into that sort of threat analytics methodology where we're going to provide you with not just context about what happened in your network, but mitigation advice going forward, how we can actually prevent this type of attacks. Because as we have been working really closely with our MTE pilot customers, it's been clear that a lot of times what we're finding are trends where in one network we might find, just like I said, a banking Trojan using it one day and then a targeted attacker using it the other day. So making it clear that we can actually, through helping you through hunting in your network, kind of give you those advice on how to harden it as well is, I think, a very big difference there.
Yeah, absolutely. That sounds really cool.
Cool. Any more questions about threat intelligence in general?
No, I think we're good. All right. Well, Jessica, as always, that was awesome. I really appreciate you coming on and doing this for us.
Thank you. I appreciate you giving me a chance to talk about, what I'm super passionate about, which is helping make our customers more secure, which
You
isn't
know,
just a tagline. I really
yeah.
like doing it.
No, I was just going to say, you are super passionate about this, and it's awesome. That's why I love having you on as a guest.
Thank you so
Uh,
much.
you're always excited about it, and you always do a great job. And I know that comes through, and I know that everybody out there listening to this or watching it, if you're watching it on YouTube, appreciates it, and as do I.
Well, thanks, and we hope we can make a difference. And if you have any questions, we've got a Twitter, we've got some emails. We'll put it at the bottom.
All right. Thanks, guys. Hey, by the way, if you're watching this for the first time, I know we get a lot of repeat viewers, but if you're watching this for the first time, do me a favor and subscribe to the channel. You can always not watch episodes you're not interested in, and we'll show up in your feed periodically with something cool, hopefully. So, without any further ado, that's your taste of Premiere.